So if you were to bring the black share of wealth at least to the black share of the population, it would require an additional at least $10 trillion.
All right, so we are live with part 4 of our infrastructure breakdown. That infrastructure bill that Biden signed, there's going to be some money coming down the pike for that. And we are looking at the section for minority businesses. So we will just pick up where we left off. All right. So, C, functions. An MBA rural business center shall, one, primarily serve clients that are A, rural minority business enterprises, or B, minority business enterprises that are located more than 50 miles from the MBDA business center other than that MBDA rural business center. Two, focus on A, issues related to one, the adoption of broadband internet access service as defined in Section 8.1B of Title 47, Code of Federal Regulations, or any successor regulation. All right, HR 3684, 1032.
All right. Yeah, I think it continues from, yeah. So from A, then I think it continues to the digital literacy skills.
Okay, we're
I think that's
continuing
part of
on.
one.
All right. So this is the continuation of one, digital literacy skills and e-commerce by rural minority business enterprises. Two, advanced manufacturing. Three, the promotion of manufacturing in the United States. Four, ways in which rural minority business enterprises can meet gaps in the supply chain of critical supplies and essential goods and services for the United States. Five, improving the connectivity of rural minority business enterprises through transportation and logistics. Six, promoting trade and export opportunities by rural minority business enterprises. Seven, securing financial capital. Eight, facilitating entrepreneurship in rural areas. And nine, creating jobs in rural areas. And B, any other issues related to the unique challenges faced by rural minority business enterprises. And three, provide education, training, and legal, financial, and technical assistance to minority business enterprises. D, applications. All right, this is getting to the meat of it. How do we apply? One, in general, not later than 90 days after the date of enactment of this act, the undersecretary shall issue a notice of funding opportunity requesting applications from eligible entities that desire to enter into MBDA Rural Business Center agreements. Two, criteria and priority. In selecting an eligible entity, which with which to enter into a MBDA Rural Business Center agreement, the undersecretary shall A, select an eligible entity that demonstrates one, the ability to collaborate with governmental and private sector entities to leverage capabilities of minority business enterprises through public private partnerships. Two, the research and extension capacity to support minority business enterprises. Three, knowledge of the community that the eligible entity serves and the ability to conduct effective outreach to that community to advance the goals of an MBDA rural business center. 4. The ability to provide innovative business solutions, including access to contracting opportunities, markets, and capital. 5. The ability to provide services that advance the development of science, technology, engineering, and math jobs within minority business enterprises. 6. The ability to leverage resources from within the eligible entity to advance the MBDA Rural Business Center. 7. That the mission of the eligible entity aligns with the mission of the agency. 8. The ability to leverage relationships with rural minority business enterprises. And 9. A referral relationship with not less than one community based organization. And
All right, you want me to take this one?
go for it.
All right. B, give priority to an eligible entity that, one, is located in a state or region that has a significant population of socially or economically disadvantaged individuals. 2, has a history of serving socially or economically disadvantaged individuals. Or 3, in the determination of the undersecretary, has not received an equitable allocation of land and financial resources under 1. The Act of July 2nd, 1862, commonly known as the First Morrill Act. That's spelled Morrill Act if you're listening to it, not the moral, MRAL. 12, Statute 503, Chapter 130, 7 USC 301. Or looks like number 2, the Act of August 30th, 1890, commonly known as the Second Morrill Act. 3. Considerations in determining whether to enter into an MBDA Rural Business Center agreement with an eligible entity under this section, the Undersecretary shall consider the needs of the eligible entity. Section 100303, report to Congress. Not later than 1 year after the date of enactment of this act, the Undersecretary shall submit to the appropriate congressional committees a report that includes 1. A summary of the efforts of the Undersecretary to provide services to minority business enterprises located in the states that lack an MBDA business center as of the date of enactment of this act, and especially in those states that have significant minority populations. And 2. Recommendations for extending the outreach of the agency to underserved areas. Section 100304, study and report. A. In general, the Undersecretary, in coordination with relevant leadership of the agency and relevant individuals outside of the Department of Commerce, shall conduct a study that addresses the ways in which minority business enterprises can meet gaps in the supply chain of the United States, with a particular focus on the supply chain of advanced manufacturing and essential goods and services. B. Report. Not later than 1 year after the date of enactment of this act, the Undersecretary shall submit to the appropriate congressional committees a report that includes the results of the study conducted under subsection A, which shall include recommendations regarding the ways in which minority business enterprises can meet gaps in the supply chain of the United States. Title 4, Minority Business Development Grants, Section 100401, grants to nonprofit organizations that support minority business enterprises. A. Definition. In this section, the term, quote, covered entity, end quote, means a private nonprofit organization that
1 is described in paragraph 3, 4, 5, or 6 of Section 501C of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 and exempt from tax under Section 501A of such code, and 2 can demonstrate that a primary activity of the organization is to provide services to minority business enterprises, whether through education, making grants or loans, or other similar activities. B. Purpose. The purpose of this section is to make grants to covered entities to help those covered entities continue the necessary work of supporting minority business enterprises. C. Designation of office. 1. In general, not later than 180 days after the date of enactment of this act, the Undersecretary shall designate an office to make and administer grant under this section. 2. Considerations. In designating an office under paragraph 1, the Undersecretary shall ensure that the office designated has adequate staffing to carry out the responsibilities of the office under this section. D. Application. A covered entity desiring a grant under this section shall submit to the Undersecretary an application at such time in such manner and containing such information as the Undersecretary may require. E. Priority. The Undersecretary shall, in carrying out this section, prioritize granting an application submitted by a covered entity that is located in a federally recognized area of economic distress. F. Use of funds. A covered entity to which a grant is made under this section may use the grant funds to support the development, growth, and retention of minority business enterprises. G. Procedures. The Undersecretary shall establish procedures to 1. Discourage and prevent waste, fraud, and abuse by applicants for the recipients of grants made under this section, and 2. Ensure that grants are made under this section to a diverse array of covered entities, which may include A. Covered entities with a national presence, B. Community based covered entities, C. Covered entities with annual budgets below 1 million, or D, covered entities that principally serve low income and rural communities. H, Inspector General audit. Not later than 180 days after the date on which the Undersecretary begins making grants under this section, the Inspector General and Department of Commerce shall 1. Conduct an audit of grants made under this section, which shall seek to identify any discrepancies or irregularities with respect to those grants, and 2. Submit to Congress a report regarding the audit conducted under paragraph 1. 1. Updates to Congress. Not later than 90 days after the date on which the Undersecretary makes the designation required under subsection C, and once every 30 days thereafter, the Undersecretary shall submit to Congress a report that contains 1. The number of grants made under this section during the period covered by the report, and
Dun, 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 dun. 2. With respect to the grants described in paragraph 1, A, the geographic distribution of these grants by state and county. B, if applicable, demographic information with respect to the minority business enterprises served by the covered entities to which the grants were made. And C, information regarding the industries of the minority business enterprises served by the covered entities to which the grants were made. Title 5, Minority Business Enterprises Advisory Council. Section 100501, purpose. The Undersecretary shall establish the Minority Business Enterprises Advisory Council, referred to in this title as the Council, to advise and assist the agency. Section 100502, composition and term. Excuse me. A, composition. The council shall be composed of 9 members of the private sector and 1 representative from each of not fewer than 10 federal agencies that support or otherwise have duties that relate to business formation, including duties relating to labor development, monetary policy, national security, energy, agriculture, transportation, and housing. B, chair. The Undersecretary shall designate one of the private sector members of the council as the chair of the council for a 1-year term. C, term. The council shall meet at the request of the Undersecretary, and members shall serve for a term of 2 years. Members of the council may be reappointed. Section 100503, duties. A, in general, the council shall provide advice to the Undersecretary by 1, serving as a source of knowledge and information on developments in areas of the economic and social life of the United States that affect socially or economically disadvantaged business concerns. 2, providing the Undersecretary with information regarding plans, programs, and activities in the public and private sectors that relate to socially or economically disadvantaged business concerns. And 3, advising the undersecretary regarding A, any measures to better achieve the objectives of this division, and B, problems and matters the undersecretary refers to the council. B, capacity. Members of the council shall not be compensated for service on the council, but may be allowed travel expenses, including per diem, in lieu of subsistence, in accordance with subchapter, is that I or 1? I can't. It looks like I. I think it might be 1.
It looks like an I to
Is it
me.
I or 1?
It looks
It's
like an
either I or
I.
1. I don't know.
It
I,
looks like an I
me.
to me.
Okay. Well, let's just say I or 1 of Chapter 57 of Title 5, United States Code. Termination, notwithstanding Section 14 of the Federal Advisory Committee Act, 5 USC. The council shall terminate on the date that is 5 years after the date of enactment of this act. So we'll go ahead and pause there, and then we'll continue next time.
So does that mean that this thing has a 5-year lifespan?
Well, I don't know. That's a good question.
5 years to spend all the money?
Well, it looks like, I don't know. This might have to do with the committee, I think. So that's a good question.
Yeah, let's put a pin in that. Maybe they'll tell us more, as we wrap this up in our next session.
Yes, 5 years. Because it says the council shall terminate on the date that is 5 years after the date of enactment of this act. So
the 5
I think
years
it has to do
kind
with council.
Okay, because the 5 years just kind of struck me because I know earlier in an earlier session we were reading that these terms to be an MBDA are going to be like 3-year terms. So I'm just wondering why, the math isn't mathing. I mean, when you get like 2 3-year terms, be 6 years. But so yeah.
Yeah, because it looks like in Section 100502, it says C, term. The council shall meet at the request of the undersecretary, and members shall serve for a term of 2 years. So that's at minimum of 2 years. And then in the termination, it says shall terminate on the date of 5 years. So I think this portion has to do with the council.
Okay.
So I guess, we probably should figure out, how long, or if somebody else might know how long this act's supposed to be, definitely let us know in the comments.
Yeah, let us know.
Because we're all learning, as we go through this huge act, this huge endeavor called the Infrastructure Act. So yeah, definitely let us know. Hit us up as well at etmmediagroup@gmail.com. If you have any questions or inquiries or anything, hit us up there.
Definitely. So until next time, I guess that'll be a peace out.
Yes, peace.